There's one magical word that will absolutely change your day trading. And that magical word, can you guess what it is? Confluence. That's right. Confluence is the alignment of different indicators all at the same time, adding to your ability to really lever into a trade. Now, trading is about a lot of different things, but more importantly, it's about really making money on the A trades, the A plus setups, those setups that are so good that you know you're going to make money on them. But how do you know if a trade is so good? Well, Confluence is the way that you can do it, guys. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the proper way to actually look for Confluence, right? You don't want to just use multiple types of indicators. There really is an approach, a structured approach to seeking Confluence that will help you in your trading journey and pass your first MyFundedFutures evaluation. Maybe you got one of our static accounts and you are on your way. You've been building a nice little buffer to passing, or maybe you just passed and are trying to get your first payout in this very bullish environment that we're in right now. Nonetheless, seeking Confluence is going to be the key to continuing positively on your journey. Make sure you check us out in our MyFundedFutures Discord. We do live training sessions, things like that. Promotions are all in there, as well as a super cool community. And if you want to check out my community as well, check out the link down below in the description. I, Forrest, run a Discord called Trade Edge. We're partnered up with MyFundedFutures. So let's teach you about Confluence. So the most important thing about Confluence is time frame. I want you to write this down. Time frame, time frame, time frame. You want Confluence from higher time frames to lower time frames, right? It's fine to have Confluence on the same time frame. For example, I could have a key level here on my 1 hour chart on NQ, which we're looking at right now. We can see here that we have two red lines that line up together, right? This is the point of control from Thursday, May 23rd, as well as the point of control from Friday, May 24th. We can see that they're pretty close together. There is Confluence there, and we can see that we built this node there. So that is Confluence on the same time frame. But what I really want is Confluence across higher time frames. Another way that I could look at that is I could add my visible range volume profile to look at what the nodes look like across all these days. So technically I have the 1 hour chart here, but I'm looking for Confluence across this entire range, which is in this case 12 days. We can see here that there is a little bit of a node built right at this price. But really what I want to do is add another chart. It's going to be the same chart, NQ, on the 1 day. Okay, so the reason why time frame is so important is because I want to be able to find key levels or Confluence on the higher time frame, say this daily time frame, that lines up with my thesis on the lower time frame. Okay, now this isn't just about lines matching up, and I think that's the mistake that people make when we're talking about Confluence. They think that this line has to match up with this line, has to match up with that line, and that's one flavor of Confluence. What I want to present to you, right, or the question that I want you to posit, or really the thing I want to posit in front of you, is confluence of narrative. Okay, looking at the market on the 1 day time frame, if we go back a day, okay, and we see that we have this bull flag kind of setting up on NQ. We can look at the same bull flag on ES, okay? We could go to bar replay, go back a day. We have this bull flag that's shaping up, and I'm looking at the same setup on the 1 hour on NQ. What happens with a bull flag? Well, a bull flag will go up, it will consolidate, it will do a fake break lower, and then it will run with a measured move higher. Okay, that's the kind of standard textbook bull flag, or flag setup, I should say, in general. So on the lower time frames, if this is the break, we should be looking for confirmation. We should see very strong bullish action out of the low of this flag, because the next move should be a move higher. And we should see technical setups, confluence on the lowers that coincides with what we're seeing here. So let's look at the lower time frame, and we'll go back to NQ on our daily chart. Let's go to the lower time frame and see what we actually saw on Friday on this session. So this is that drop. This is that big red bar on the daily, right? We can go back and we can line these up. Get rid of this, okay? So this is that big red bar that we got here, and we ended up with this green bar. So how can I get confluence if I had this thesis that we were going to print this green and sweep this high, right, to my measured move target 1? What should we see on the lowers on the 1 hour that is going to validate that? Well, first and foremost, we shouldn't sweep the low, right? A sweep of the low would be a break of what I'm expecting on the daily time frame, right? I want my daily time frame thesis. So we should not see a sweep of this 18,633 price. Okay, no sweep of 18,6, well, let's say 35. We'll say the line that I have there, okay? This was a downside target on macro that I called, completely irrelevant in this video. But you come up, price opens, okay? We see a little bit of consolidation, but it immediately starts coming higher, okay? This is the overnight after the close. We're on the 1 hour chart. It's coming up, and let's see what we get here. It comes down, we get to this other key level, right? 18,760. Now, there's a few things that could happen here, okay? We could come down and probably, we could see that there's a node here. We might retest this node, right? This high value area where we built volume to do a little sweep higher. I 100% could see that. We could also do a double tap here, but we should not sweep this price. What is a sweep? People often ask me. A sweep would be something like this, okay, where we crack it, because that would be essentially a lower high and a lower low that's setting in. That would be a change in structure. We're expecting still on the macro higher lows, okay? Higher lows should be coming in. That's our expectation. So on the lower time frame, I'm looking for confluence of my macro thesis. So what happens? Boom, market opens. We break this key level in the morning and it immediately flew up. Now we probably want to go to a shorter time frame. The 1 hour is a little bit too fast in this case. Let's go to the 15-minute and replay that again. Okay, so let's go back. And in the morning here, we're getting close to the open. This is the 9 a.m. 15-minute. Again, there's a few ways that this could go. We could come back. There's liquidity here. We can see that there's a ton of action here. There's liquidity here. We can see that we tested it overnight at 18,690, right? There is that liquidity there, right? Across these time frames. But the higher time frame is showing the flag. So I want to see some confluence. What happens? We come down. We test the POC, okay? Immediately starts pushing. We get a break of the highs, okay? And we can see here that we broke the highs. We broke the value area high. Very bullish in the morning. So we consolidate. We see this consolidation here, a lot of chop, and it breaks. Very bullish in the morning. So this sweep of the lows, this was the sweep of the lows. This was the only sweep of the lows that we were going to get, and we should expect this to break. Now, that's one type of confluence to look for, right? That's the exact type of confluence that you should be looking for across different time frames. The lower time frame giving me a read of what I'm expecting on the higher time frame. That's the best type of confluence. Because now we can anticipate this trend day that we got, where we come up, we came to this prior day POC, right, which we saw sitting there on NQ. We'll give it a second to reload here. And you can see that we came to that prior liquidity target, which was the point of control from Thursday. Again, the point of control, if you're not familiar, check out my other videos on volume profile, is the price in a session with the most price action. So that's one flavor of confluence. Another flavor of confluence is across tickers, okay? So we can look at ES and we can look at NQ on the 1 day. NQ is already up. And let's get rid of all of these things from other videos that we don't need. So another type of confluence is confluence across tickers. So we have ES on the 1 day and NQ on the 1 day as well. Let's clean up our charts real quick. I'll just remove everything. We'll get rid of the 8 EMA as well and the session volume profile. So we have nothing here, okay? We should have similar setups across these tickers. If there's divergence here, right? If we had a bull flag on NQ and we had a double top on, if we had a bull flag on ES and a double top on NQ, that would be concerning, right? That would be something to look out for on the lower time frames. If you have divergence on the higher time frames, look out on the lower time frames, right? That is counter influence. Counter confluence, I would say. Very strong divergence is the way to think of it. Very often you will have, we can just draw a quick trend line here and let's get rid of some of these levels. We don't really need all of these anymore. Crack that. You can always redraw it later. Not a big deal. Okay. Let's say that we have a simple trend line coming off of these lows here. Okay. We can see here that this is a trend, right? We came close to it. And I want to look for a similar trend line on NQ. Okay. So the third type of confluence to look for would be trend line confluence across tickers. Okay, I'll write that down. Trend line confluence across we'll say indices, right? In this case, things that are correlated. So ES and NQ are strongly correlated. They often move together. Most of the time they move together. And so a trend line retest on both of these would make sense. So you can see that we came down close to this trend line on ES, came down and actually touched the trend line on NQ. Now, you can see that while these aren't exactly the same, this is a very strong read on the macro, right? We have a price that got tested. Really, we would have had to draw the trend line here, but we could have anticipated it on NQ. And that's another way that you can use Confluence across tickers, really using ES in this case, to predict that NQ was very likely to rebound here, even if I didn't have this line here on my volume profile where this low value area is starting, right? We have the trend lines Confluence, and this is really the fourth type of Confluence that I wanted to mention here, which is trend lines and volume profiles. Probably the most powerful one. I saved it for last. A lot of the trades that I call out, you'll actually see have Confluence with trend lines and the volume profile. This is a perfect example of one here. We can add the volume profile on ES as well. So you can see here that this area where we start to bounce is also where there is a dip in the volume profile. Now, this is not random by any means, right? The reason that the market is bouncing here is because there isn't much participation in the auction down here, and the market wants to move towards participation. We can see that there's a ton of participation higher. Okay, so we have this low, the trend line coming in where there is low Confluence, right? Same here. The trend line happens to be right where there's the shelf, the steep drop off in the volume profile. Okay, that's why I had that level there. Very, 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 very simple Confluence, right? Trend lines and volume profile. A trend, by the way, a lot of people over conflate what a trend line is. A trend line is literally just the slope of the auction, right? So as price gets bid up higher, it gets pulled back, and it gets bid up higher and it gets pulled back, right? It's just a projection of literal trend, right? It's not magic, but what's magical about them is that it really is just an observance of mass behavior, right? And it allows us to predict behavior, even when it misses, right? You see this miss, right? Not perfect, it doesn't matter. I consider that a trend line retest because it just shows the shape of the auction. That's really all we're drawing here is the shape of the auction across a period of time. Then eventually it'll break this shape and it'll do another shape, right? You can see here, the lows here, there's some trend. There's trend lines. There's a million trend lines that you can draw, right? So Confluence, in order of importance, one, always start on the higher time frames, right? Look for Confluence across tickers, indices. Look for Confluence across trend and volume profile. Probably the most powerful Confluence that you can look for. But really, if you're not starting on the higher time frames, when you're hunting for Confluence, right? If you're using a bunch of different indicators like MACD and RSI and all these things on the same time frame, and you're wondering why you're getting chopped up, it's because you're looking for Confluence on lower time frames. You need to look for higher time frame narrative and then Confluence on the lower time frame that supports what you expect to happen on the higher time frame, and that's how you can really capture some edge. I hope you found this video useful. Pretty simple concept, but it really focuses on what's most important in trading, which is execution. Okay, a lot of times, again, in the moment, it's easy to look back, but in the moment when you're actually looking for a reason to hit that button, you need that higher time frame narrative. You need a plan and expectation for what's going to happen overall so that you can decide what to do in the moment. Because looking back, it's really easy to look at things that lined up. But again, in the moment, if you're like, oh, this is the bottom of a shelf on the higher time frame on the daily, and there isn't a node from yesterday for us to retest, I should take this long. Makes a lot of sense, but you have to be able to execute and push that button in the moment, which is so key. Execution is everything as a trader. That's it. See you in the next video. Peace.